All right, welcome to The Explainer. I am so thrilled you're here today because we're going to bridge a massive gap. The gap between high-level business strategy and the actual nuts and bolts of cybersecurity. We're diving into Module 12, Securing Information. But listen, we aren't just going to sit here and talk about bits and bytes. We're looking at this strictly through the lens of a business manager. Okay, let's dive right into this because it directly connects to what you literally just learned in Module 11 about competitive advantage. We talked about how companies work tirelessly to build up an edge. Maybe it's through price leadership, economies of scale, or just having incredible product differentiation. But here's the stark reality. An unsecured advantage is a lost advantage. You can spend years building up customer trust and optimizing your lean manufacturing, but a single data breach or just one day of network downtime can wipe all of that out instantly. Security is what protects your hard-earned market position. So, to understand how we actually protect that position, here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll cover modern cyber threats. Second, the human element. Third, assessing cybersecurity risks. And finally, building business defenses. Think of this as your mental guide to understanding how security keeps your business in the game. Let's kick things off with Section 1, Modern Cyber Threats. To defend your business, you need to know exactly who and what is targeting you. Let's define the modern adversaries. And surprisingly, not all hackers are the enemy. Which brings us to the crucial difference between white hat and black hat hackers. White hat hackers are basically your allies. They're non-malicious security experts. You actually hire them as consultants to do penetration testing, basically to expose the weaknesses in your network's firewalls before the bad guys can find them. On the flip side, we have the black hat hackers. These are the malicious actors actually breaking in to cause damage or steal your data. And honestly, they range widely in skill. You've got novices, often called script kiddies, who just download hacking tools off the internet, all the way up to highly funded, state-sponsored operatives running massive hack-for-hire operations. And one of the absolutely most devastating weapons these black hat hackers use is ransomware. This is malware that sneaks into your system, maybe hiding inside a Trojan horse, and it completely encrypts your data. Suddenly, boom, your business is paralyzed. Your data is totally inaccessible until you pay a financial ransom to the attacker. But it gets even worse. We're now seeing what's called double extortion attacks. This is where attackers don't just encrypt the data, they actually steal a copy of it first, and then threaten to leak or sell your highly confidential customer information if you don't pay up. It is an absolute operational nightmare. Now, what's really interesting about this is this number right here, 43%. 43% of all cyber attacks are aimed squarely at small businesses. There's this huge misconception out there that only massive Fortune 500 corporations need to worry about cyber threats. Nope. If you have data, you are a target, regardless of your size. But hey, we have to remember that not all threats are digital criminals in hoodies. We also have unpredictable threats, things like natural disasters, floods, wildfires, tornadoes, and earthquakes. Think about a local seasonal pool installation and maintenance business. They might not think they're a prime target for a foreign hacker, right? But a massive flood could physically wipe out the servers holding their supplier contacts, their seasonal schedules, and their customer billing data. This is exactly why a business continuity plan is vital. You absolutely need off-site cloud storage and geographic data redundancy. Basically meaning, if your primary business is in Florida, your data needs to be backed up on a server safely sitting in St. Louis. All right, moving on to Section 2, the human element. We can build the thickest, most advanced digital walls in the world, but human vulnerability is almost always the weakest link in any organization. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what I mean. 91% of attacks launch with a simple phishing email. Just let that sink in for a second. The vast majority of these crippling cyber attacks, they don't start with some cinematic brute force hacking algorithm. They rely entirely on tricking a normal employee into clicking a harmful attachment or a bad link. This whole tactic falls under the umbrella of social engineering. Social engineering uses digital technology to manipulate people into handing over confidential information. It's really a psychological attack. It totally bypasses your expensive technical firewalls because it targets human trust. Cybercriminals know it is so much easier to just ask someone for their password by pretending to be the IT department than it is to actually try and guess it. To make this super concrete, imagine a business that runs a senior care facility. You've got residents needing full medical care, you have nurses on duty 24/7, and a really busy business office. A cybercriminal might call up that business office, sounding incredibly professional. Maybe they pose as a medical supplier or a hospital coordinator, and they just trick a stressed, overworked employee into giving up confidential patient health data over the phone. This is exactly why every single staff member, from your head nurses to the part-time business office workers, needs rigorous ongoing vigilance training. Security is literally everyone's job. Which brings us to Section 3, assessing cybersecurity risks. So, the crucial point is, how do we get organized to fight back? For a manager, risk assessment has to be a core executive strategy, not just some IT checklist you ignore. And to do that, you need to understand the NIST risk equation, which simply states that risk equals threat times vulnerability times asset. Look, you can't protect everything perfectly, so this formula actually helps business leaders prioritize. You ask yourself, what are our most important assets? What are the threats to them? And how vulnerable are we? This helps executives decide exactly how much budget to allocate toward defending specific business assets in the most cost-effective way possible. Let's look at how this plays out in the real world. Imagine you're the CIO of a large multinational shoe manufacturer. You use well-known suppliers globally, and you've got a massive worldwide customer base. Step 1, you identify your key assets. In this case, it's probably that massive global customer database and your proprietary supply chain logistics. Step 2, evaluate your vulnerabilities. Maybe your external vulnerability is a weak cloud configuration, but your internal vulnerability is a total lack of employee phishing training. Step 3, determine acceptable levels of risk. You apply that formula to figure out exactly where to spend your security budget to mitigate the most catastrophic risks to your shoe empire. And finally, Section 4, building business defenses. Now that we know our risks, let's look at our final framework, detailing the specific tools we use to actually lock an organization down. At the absolute baseline, you need core mitigation strategies. First, hardware and software firewalls to filter the traffic coming in and out of your network. Next, routine offline data backups. Remember ransomware from earlier? Well, if your data is backed up entirely offline, you don't even have to pay a ransom. You just wipe the system and restore everything from yesterday's backup. Problem solved. And finally, multi-factor authentication, or MFA. This ensures that even if a password is stolen, the attacker still can't get in without that second device. Even small local businesses absolutely must employ these fundamentals, just to survive today. But as businesses grow, the threats become way more sophisticated, which brings us to UEBA, User and Entity Behavior Analytics. This is AI-driven cybersecurity. What it does is establish a baseline of what normal behavior looks like for the users on your network. Think about a mid-sized leather goods company with a strong customer base. If an authorized employee who usually just logs in to check email suddenly starts downloading massive, thousands of pages-long customer lists at 2 a.m., well, traditional passwords aren't going to stop them because they are an authorized user. But UEBA spots this subtle insider threat because it deviates so far from normal behavior, and it flags it immediately. Let's move to see how this builds into an absolute modern arms race. Cybercriminals are now using artificial intelligence to craft highly personalized, automated phishing and vishing, that's voice phishing, attacks. They are literally pulling data from social media to trick your employees with perfectly written emails. In response, businesses are having to fight fire with fire using next-generation antivirus, or NGAV. NGAV uses AI for behavior-based threat detection rather than just looking for a list of known viruses. So it's quite literally AI versus AI, constantly evolving. We've covered the threats, the human element, risk assessment, and the actual defenses. So here's my open question to you. Think of a business you know really well. Maybe it's a place you currently work or a brand you buy from every single day. How do these cybersecurity concepts apply to them? If you had to run that NIST risk equation on that business right now, what is their biggest vulnerability and how would you defend it? Keep that in mind as you step into your role as a modern business professional, because at the end of the day, protecting the data is protecting the business. Thanks so much for exploring this with me.